I'll wait for recording. Lisa has, that's always my cue to start. So we will kick off our meeting, call to order, and it will take us to roll call.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. District 1?
District 1 here.
District 2? District 3? District 4? District 5?
I'm here.
Banning?
Here.
Beaumont?
Here.
Calimesa?
Here.
Canyon Lake?
Here.
Corona?
Here.
Eastvale? Hemet?
Here.
Garupa Valley?
Here.
Lake Elsinore?
Here.
Menifee? Moreno Valley? Marietta? Norco?
Here.
Paris?
Here.
Riverside?
Here.
San Jacinto? Temecula?
Marianne in Temecula.
Wildemar?
I'm right here.
We do have a quorum, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That will take us to our Pledge of Allegiance. I did ask San Jacinto, but I didn't hear her. Is she here? Is Crystal here?
It
No?
looks like she's just joining.
Oh, she said she would do our pledge, so we'll let her come in.
And I had trouble. This is City of Menifee. I had trouble with my internet. I'm trying to log in, but I have a phone.
Well, if we're having challenges, we can have.
Madam Chair, you cut out at the end. We're not sure what your direction was. Can you hear us?
Maybe something happened because I got locked out of my internet. I got totally booted out of my computer. So
Can you hear me now?
there we go.
This is going to be so much fun today, you guys. Oh, love to go.
Absolute.
So I didn't hear that happen. I don't know if I could hear or not hear. We didn't do the pledge. Is Crystal, are you available? Are you able to join us?
I made it on this time.
Awesome. All right, please lead us.
Everyone, please rise. Join me in honoring this great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so that'll take us on our agenda to public comments. Item number 4. Do we have any? Oh, you know what? Before I move to public comments, let me do the housekeeping or I'll get a little message. You forgot to do housekeeping. I think you all know how to participate in a Zoom, but in case, raise your hand to speak, unmute. Double mute is always a beast. If you're dialing in by phone, only *9 to unmute, and we will be mindful of those that are requesting to speak. We're trying to manage, but if you don't, just quickly raise your hand or unmute. So that being said, now we are on public comments. Item number 4, are there any requests to speak?
I did not receive any written comments for items not on the agenda, and I'm not seeing any hands raised at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't know that we have any additions or revisions. Item number 5. So we're going to go straight to our item number 6, which is closed session. And I see both of our legal counsel's on today, so I will turn it over to them for a closed session.
Yes, we have 3 items listed on the closed session agenda for the potential acquisition of 3 properties. The names of the property owners and the APNs are listed on the agenda.
I see a hand raised from Supervisor Hewitt.
Supervisor Hewitt.
And thank you. Just a question of the council. If I have a conflict with one of those 3, do I miss the entire closed session or just recuse myself at that time or just not vote on it?
You should recuse yourself at that time. So I don't know which one, but if you can let us know, we'll take that one perhaps last, and you can.
Yeah. If you could move item number 2 up to the last, then it'll make it easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can do that. So I believe you will stand by and we will go to our closed session.
Supervisor Jeffries and Spiegel, did you see, or it's Supervisor Spiegel now, did you see the button for closed session?
I have no button.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to find.
Okay, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there should be an option for breakout rooms.
Bye.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes.
Hi, I have a commissioner who was requesting a statement as to why there was a recusal on the closed session item before he takes a vote. I was wondering if you'd like me to relay a message or,
Yeah, I believe that I think I took I've had a donation from that individual.
a campaign contribution?
Yes.
Okay, I will go ahead and let him know.
Yeah, I don't live anywhere near that. All right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
We are good to go.
All right, thank you, Philip. I will turn it over to legal counsel.
Yes, a couple of housekeeping matters. First of all, I'm going to ask Supervisor Hewitt to explain for the public and for the record his decision to recuse himself from item 2.
Yes, I believe I've gotten a recent donation from someone by that name, so I'm being careful.
Okay, thank you. And then secondly, with regards to item 1, I need to announce that the board authorized the acquisition of that property for $240,000. That's it.
Okay, thanks so much. That'll take us to item number 7, which is our consent calendar. There are 6 items on the consent calendar. Are there any requests to speak on the consent calendar?
I'm not seeing any hands raised,
Move
and I
to
did not
approve
receive any
the
written correspondence.
Valley second.
I heard Harupa second. I did not hear the first. Can the first repeat the?
It's San Jacinto.
Oh, okay. San Jacinto is our motion to approve. Our second is Harupa Valley. No request to speak. Then we will move to roll call vote for the consent calendar.
Thank you. District 1,
District 1, yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Corona,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes, except I abstained from 7A, the minutes. I was not at the April 4th meeting. I had my alternate attend.
thank you, noted. Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Aye.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Aye.
Wildemar.
Aye.
Thank you. The consent calendar passes.
Okay, thank you so much. That's going to take us to our next item, which is our state and federal legislative update and overview.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair and board members. Today, I'll provide you with an update on staff's legislative advocacy and present you with a recommended bill position for your consideration. At the end of March, staff joined the National HCP Coalition in its annual advocacy trip to DC. Our objective in these virtual meetings was to promote the benefits of HCPs and advocate for increased programmatic funding for Section 6 grants, as well as for process improvements to maximize the flexibility and the benefit of this critical federal funding for plans like ours. We were very clear that streamlining measures and increased funding are necessary to ensure that HCPs across the country thrive. These meetings are a part of a 3-pronged approach to RCA's advocacy. 1, staff advocates to the administrators of these programs at U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. 2, staff advocate to the congressional appropriators that authorize and fund these programs. And 3, staff advocate to the White House officials with interest in policy streamlining that may influence the actions of the administrators at the service. To tie this 3-pronged approach together through forced policy discussion, staff coordinated programmatic funding and report language requests to RCA congressional delegation as a part of the fiscal year 2023 appropriations process. Staff requested that $85 million be allocated to the Cooperative Endangered Species Conservation Fund for HCP land acquisition, from which RCA regularly competes for funds. This would be an increase from the current funding level of $21.6 million and the President's proposed funding level of $19 million for fiscal year 2023. Now, we all understand funding requests, but let me take a moment to explain report language requests. Report language is the directive to agencies that Congress writes into law with a requirement that they come back and report their findings to Congress, which provides time-locked accountability. With this in mind, RCA requested that Congress include report language that would require U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to canvass all HCPs in order to solicit concerns and propose solutions to the Section 6 process and report back to Congress. This was done to prompt further discussion between Congress, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and HCPs regarding needed process reforms. Shifting now from federal pork to actual pork, staff is tracking California Senate Bill 856, which would expand permissible methods to take or hunt wild pigs in a manner that provides flexibility for property owners and land managers seeking to protect their lands. Today, staff recommend that the board adopt support for SB 856 by State Senator Bill Dodd of Napa. Wild pigs can be found in nearly every county in the state and are known to cause millions of dollars in damage per year to crops and rangelands in California and billions per year across the country. Ecological impacts include soil compaction, damage to native plant communities, reduced water quality, and competition with other game species for food and space. Wild pigs are also predators to ground nesting bird eggs, amphibians, reptiles, and small mammals. And as you may know, RCA manages reserve lands in the San Mateo Canyon that is facing severe ecological impacts from feral pigs. But before you reach for your hunting gear and camouflage, remember, RCA does not allow recreational hunting on reserve lands. But even so, our protected habitats would benefit from the expanded management of wild pig populations that this bill would allow for RCA's land managers. As such, staff recommend that the board adopt a support position for SB 856. As you can see, with today's staff recommendation, our virtual advocacy trips to Sacramento and DC, the influence we bring to the state's 30 by 30 initiative, the funding requests we made to both state and federal officials, and our determination to establish a wildlife refuge, our objectives are clear. We must increase our funding opportunities. We must gain flexibility to better implement our plan, and we must showcase the multi-benefits that the MSHCP brings to Western Riverside County, the state, and the country. At the direction of the board, we are doing the work, and we are leaving no stone unturned. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have as you consider this bill position.
Tyler, thank you so much. I want to thank you, and I see we do have some public comment. Mr. Sauls, I'll turn the public comment over to you. Okay, well then if we don't have any public comment, then we will move to comments and questions from the board. And I see
Can you hear me?
Tony from Corona. Yes, Mr. Sauls, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was rattling on. Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Tyler, thank you for your report. I was asking about the status of the federal legislation on the wildlife refuge. The last information we had is that Senator Feinstein had not introduced the bill at the Senate side, and they were pending a resolution of the boundaries, that there's probably 3 different boundaries. And I was curious if those have been resolved and if legislation has been introduced at the Senate. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent question. So language has not been introduced yet by Senator Feinstein's office on the Senate side. Negotiations continue, but they're making great progress toward finding boundaries that are agreed upon with all the stakeholders.
And it just seems to me, Madam Chair, that it might be the advantage of the RCA board to weigh in on that boundary and maybe break the impasse.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Appreciate that. Mr. Oh, sorry, I'm losing Corona. Tony, you are up next.
Thank you. Quick question. Do you, as you're tracking this bill, do you have any inclination of what its feasibility of passing is? In Corona, wild pigs are a definite problem. And part of the challenge that we have is you've got several different stakeholders on the land where the pigs seem to be originating from and destroying. And some of it's federal, some of it's state, some of it's city, some of it's private. It's just an entire grab bag of people that own the land that you have to get permission from. And the process with which to get a pig, I can't even pronounce the word, depredation permit, I believe it's depredation permit, is not fun. And so are you, as you're tracking this bill, do you understand, do you have an idea of what type of support there is for it?
Yes, so the bill, it's pending in Senate Appropriations Committee, but it was first heard in the Senate Natural Resources Committee, and it passed unanimously on a bipartisan basis. So our understanding is that the bill, which proposes to expand that process and allowable use, initiated by landowners and property managers, to be able to expand that management.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, so Tyler's update in first portion is a receive and file item. Item number 2, which is support of the Dodd bill, would be an actual action item. So yes, we would adopt the bill position and provide support. Do we have consideration for the staff recommendation?
Menifee will second.
Is that Wildemar?
No, it's Tony and Corona.
Oh, Tony. Okay, sorry. I tried to give it to you, Ben, but you didn't even. Yeah, you were like, yeah, let Tony have it. I got it. Okay, so I have a motion by Corona, a second by Menifee. If there's no further conversations, then we will go to roll call vote for support.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Corona,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Emmett,
Yes.
Rupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Aye.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Aye.
Wildemar.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8 passes.
All right. Thank you so much, Tyler. Appreciate that. That's going to take us to item number 9 on our agenda, which is our fee credit policy review. Do we have any requests to speak?
We did not receive any written comments on this item, and I'm currently not seeing any hands raised for comment either.
Okay, then I will turn it over for our overview and presentation.
All right, thanks, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, board members. On February 7th, the board gave direction to RCA staff to review 2 items through the RCA Stakeholders Committee relating to MSHCP fee credits. As a reminder, RCA's bylaws create the Stakeholders Committee for exactly this purpose. And I'm going to quote the bylaws for a second. It's to, quote, review implementation plans from a stakeholder perspective and perform such other duties as directed by the board. So pursuant to your direction, that's what we've done. And this is our report back to you as promised. Next slide, please. The 2 items referred to the Stakeholder Committee by the board for review pertain to MSHCP fee credits. First question is whether conservation land outside of a project site should be eligible for MSHCP fee credits. The second question is whether there should be adjustments to when fee credits can be requested to RCA, which is currently required at the time of a joint project review, or known as a JPR, which typically occurs at the beginning of the development process. Fee credits are an important topic for 2 reasons central to the plan. First is that the plan is clear that property owners are eligible for compensation if they're giving up otherwise developable land for conservation. And fee credits is just one of many possible options to provide that compensation. The second reason it's important is that the MSHCP fees levied on development projects are an obligation of cities and the county participating in the plan. And so this is a condition of their permits from the state and federal wildlife agencies. So when we're agreeing to award fee credits, it has to be done carefully and within the parameters of the plan. I also want to mention that fee credits are the only incentive that a city or the county can offer related to the MSHCP that requires the involvement of this agency, the RCA. Otherwise, all the other incentives for compensation for land are at the sole discretion of the Land Use Authority, not RCA. Next slide, please. So the Stakeholder Committee met to discuss these issues. Meeting was well attended. Nearly all the committee members spoke during a nearly 2-hour dialogue, touching on all sorts of facets of these issues. And so we all benefited from hearing their firsthand experience, whether they were developers, landowners, they're from the environmental community. And what's important here is the policy discussion did not focus on a particular project. This was a policy discussion. And as one would expect in a room full of diverse views like this, they found common ground in some places and others they did not. But even then, the dialogue was respectful, productive, and we found it very helpful. I also want to mention to the board that prior to the meeting, most but not all of the committee members participated in an ethics training that was presented by RCA Legal Counsel, since we're conducting this committee according to the Brown Act. Next slide, please. So at the forefront of their deliberations and in the center of what we're presenting to you today are just a few considerations. One is that any policy that this board adopts has to stay within the boundaries of the MSHCP. Even if we don't like what the MSHCP says and we want to amend it, that's a pretty arduous process. It's not easy to do. Second, we are dealing with public funds when we're talking about fee credits, so there are legal constraints and fiduciary responsibilities we have as a public agency. Third, any policy that we set has precedent long into the future, and I'd like to quote our chair who says, quote, "What we do for one, we do for all." And four, the board's expectations of RCTC when we took over management of this agency is that we would engage better with our partners, whether that's our member agencies, the private sector, the environmental community. And as we've discovered over the last 16 months, there may be cases where the policies that are in place are actually the right policies. They just need to be implemented better. And we're ready to do that where that's the case. And finally, the question that I hope we're all here and that stakeholder committee is here to answer is, what can we do to advance the overall success of the plan? Next slide, please. So let's get into the issues that the committee delved into. The first one is about whether a property owner can offset their fees by offering land to RCA somewhere outside of their development footprint. So I use this graphic on the screen to kind of explain what this is. So we have a property owner who owns the land in yellow on your screen, and it's in a criteria cell, which is denoted by the blue outline around it. And this landowner wants to develop their property. Now, the MSHCP requires in this instance, because they're in a criteria cell, that they go to the city, we'll call it City X, and the city must perform what's called a HANS review. And HANS stands for Habitat Acquisition Negotiation Strategy, and that's outlined in section 6.1.1 of the plan. And during this process, the city looks to see if there's any land here that needs to be conserved according to the MSHCP. In the hypothetical situation we're using here, the city determines, nope, there is no conservation needed. And so therefore the developer doesn't need to conserve land for the MSHCP as part of their project. There may be other things that they need to do that the city requires, but for the MSHCP, they don't need to lose any land. Next slide, please. But this property owner in this situation has land outside of the proposed project site. And it's the green square on the top there. And it's also in a criteria cell. And that other unrelated property could be useful to the MSHCP reserve, but it's not required to be conserved as a condition of the project that's in yellow. But the landowner wants the RCA to accept that green property as a means to offset their fee obligation. So this is essentially a swap of land for fees, or an exchange rather. However, the HANS process as written into the MSHCP only focuses on providing incentives to property owners who are losing otherwise developable land and doesn't contemplate what's depicted on your screen. Next slide, please. So the stakeholder committee discussed this. They had a robust conversation. They did not reach consensus on what to do here. There were diverging viewpoints ranging from, yes, this could be a new opportunity to conserve land, to no, the system's not broken and this could lead to a loss of control by the RCA over what it's conserving. And so given that discussion took place and staff's analysis of what the plan says, we're not recommending a policy change to the board here today, as if there's a landowner that has that property up in green on that previous slide, they do have mechanisms within the plan to sell that land to the RCA. And so there are avenues for them to pursue, just not through a fee credit. Next slide, please. So the second issue the board asked the committee to address was timing of when member agencies request fee credits for projects that do need to conserve land on there. So imagine that yellow square that has the green within it. So the landowner's giving up some property. In this case, I want to emphasize here that it's the city and the county, not applicants, that request fee credits and offer incentives to conserve property. And RCA is not a land use authority. So we're dealing with here with what are the cities proposing to do to compensate these property owners. And so to deal with this, since 2016, the RCA board has required member agencies to request fee credits as part of their JPR application when they're sending us project information after they've done their review of what needs to be conserved through the HANS process. So at this point, it's clear to the property owners and the city what's being conserved. And this is important because we want to make sure that if RCA is approving a fee credit, that we're not double dipping and basically double compensating a property owner if the city has already offered some other means to achieve conservation. The perspective that the building industry has shared with us is that projects often change after RCA has reviewed the initial project through the JPR process, and they want the flexibility for member agencies to request fee credits later in the process. So this is what the committee discussed. Next slide, please. And here, this is where there was consensus among the committee. They broadly acknowledged there needs to be more acknowledgement by all parties at the development of the process. So that's the city, the applicant, and RCA of what incentives are available to property owners who are losing developable land for conservation. There was also consensus that projects do change after our initial review, which tends to be at the beginning of the process. However, the committee also acknowledged that conservation as it pertains to the MSHCP usually doesn't change throughout that process, but when it does, there should be flexibility. And so there's a mechanism to do that. If their conservation is changing, they need to submit a new JPR application. And finally, the committee reached consensus that once a project is approved by the city or the county, no further incentives should be offered to the property owner after the fact. Next slide, please. So this is where we get to our recommendation. And so what's before you today is actually a recommendation that came straight from one of the stakeholders that sits on the committee. And the recommendation was approved by the executive committee a couple of weeks ago. And that's this, that we need to update our JPR application and provide more disclosure of what incentives are available to property owners who are conserving their land. We hope that this will facilitate a better dialogue and communication and be more upfront at the beginning of the process about how property owners are going to be compensated. Now, if there is a change to a project later in the process and the conservation footprint changes or the development footprint changes, they need to submit a new JPR anyway. And so we'll have this updated application that has that information, and the city is or the county is free to request those fee credits if they deem it's appropriate later in the process. If the board approves this change, we'll update all our training materials. We'll reach out to the member agencies in the building industry and make sure that we're doing better communication on making sure that all of this is better understood at the outset. Next slide, please. So I appreciate the board recognizing the importance of this issue and referring it to the stakeholder committee and tasking staff to do a deeper dive into it. And at this point, I'm happy to yield the floor and take your direction.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Looks like we have some questions. Can we put up the staff recommendation and then I'll field questions? Julio, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, can we just go back to the slide with the two squares? Yeah, that one there. I just needed to check something on there. Okay, so basically it looks like the recommendation doesn't have anything to do with changing when incentives are offered. That's all pretty much intact. It just looks like a little bit more of a clarity and transparency that we're trying to ask for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. All right, so we can go back to staff recommendations. Okay, great. Okay, so Supervisor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to compliment Aaron on that presentation about the process. It was very clear and simple, easy to understand and easy to follow. And I think it's important that we recognize the need to continue supporting a process through this. Yes, we can make it more transparent, we can make it clear, and we can better educate people on the front end. But I think this issue was brought about by a request to give fee credits for property that we had not asked for, and it was after a project had been approved. And I think what Aaron has demonstrated is that not only does RCA not do that, but it would be not a good practice to do that. So thank you, Aaron, for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, Marianne.
No, well, basically, I was going to chime in with Supervisor Washington. You know, this has been needed for a long time, and I appreciate staff's work on this. Thank you.
You.
I also want to comment and say that one of the wonderful parts about the stakeholder committee is this: it's to see it in action and get their recommendation and then see it come to fruition. So really appreciate their talking and working through this and their suggestions. So there is a action item. If there's no other comments or considering, oh, Supervisor Hewitt, I see your hand.
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm not really happy with the process right now. And I think that having a stakeholders body like this should be very independent. You know, its ability to actually give us ideas and stuff. It doesn't have legislative power over this body. However, to have our executive director actually set up the all the agenda and everything for the meetings takes away from a lot of that independence. So I'm not real happy with the way it is, and I'd like to see it become more independent, because that's how we, as electeds that have our hands full of all kinds of things all the time, should really have those stakeholders who are living and breathing this every day. I really think they should be more independent. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you, sir. Noted. We have a action before us to approve the update of the JPR application. Do we have a consideration?
Recommendation from Canyon Lake to adopt.
Thank you.
Santo seconds.
All right, I have a motion to approve from Canyon Lake and a second from San Jacinto. If there's no further discussion, we will go to roll call vote.
Madam Chair, it appears that you have another hand up from possibly a member of the community. I don't know if we have to take community comments.
I did already call for public comments.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a motion from Canyon Lake and a second from San Jacinto. We'll go to roll call vote.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
A hesitant yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5,
No.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Corona,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Paris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Aye.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Aye.
Wildemar.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 9 passes.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
I just saw a hand from Supervisor Jeffries.
Oh, did it? I'm sorry, sir.
It was just going to be after vote
Okay.
comment.
Sure.
I think I'm a little closer aligned with Supervisor Spiegel on a hesitant yes on this, and because I'm hesitant to agree that hard and fast rules apply 100% of the time in 100% of the circumstances. And so I want staff to know that I do have a degree of hesitancy that perhaps there will be occasions when we need flexibility to address a unique need with a unique property owner or unique set of circumstances, and not just go by the book 100% of the time. That was my commentary. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Aaron, do you want to speak to that about the one-off case scenario where we will need flexibility, and what would be that course of action?
Absolutely, and we recognize that, and as we've worked through this plan, there are these unusual circumstances, and that is where we will come to the board, and as we have done recently, to ask what is your direction on this before we proceed off of what the plan says. And if there's some new guidance, or we want to take a different direction, we're happy to do that. So when those things come up, we will be transparent about them with the board.
All right. Thank you. That's going to take us to, pardon me, item number 10, which is our presentation species of the month.
Good afternoon, Chair Johnson, board members, and the public. Today's species of the month will be on the Kino checker spot butterfly and MHACP covered species. Next slide, please. The Kino checker spot butterfly is a covered species which is listed as endangered under the Federal Endangered Species Act. It is orange, black, and cream colored with a complex checkered pattern on its wings, which have a wingspan of up to 1.5 inches. There are several common species of butterflies that can look like this one to the untrained eye. It is assumed that this butterfly can disperse up to 0.6 of a mile, and adults can live between 4 to 8 weeks. Next slide, please. Kino are known to occur in western Riverside County, San Diego County, and Baja California. Known populations within western Riverside County occur in the vicinity of Anza, Gavilan Hills, Menifee, Sage, and a few other areas within the plan area. Next slide, please. Adult Kino are sedentary by nature, meaning they're generally sitting, and are butterflies that fly close to the ground. Adults are known to congregate on hilltops, ridgelines, and other prominent geographic features. This is referred to as hilltopping, but whether this is related to mating is yet to be confirmed. Next slide, please. Adult butterflies will only deposit eggs on plant species they recognize as host plants, which are typically native herbaceous plant species. Host plants, which are larval food sources, include the dwarf plantain, white snapdragon, woolly plantain, and Chinese houses. Other host plants may include other native plantago species, purple owl's clover, and threadleaf bird's beak. If you look closely at the photo, you can see a cluster of yellow Kino eggs at the base of the plant. Next slide, please. Kino checker spots have been found in vernal pools, coastal sage scrub, chaparral, grasslands, and other open canopied habitats. Experts familiar with this species believe populations separated by more than 2 miles may be demographically isolated. Next slide, please. The first species objective is to include within the conservation area at least about 67,500 acres of suitable habitat, supporting the 7 core area populations within the southwest portion of the county. To date, we have conserved over 41,700 acres of suitable habitat. The next objective is to include within the conservation area the 12 known satellite occurrence complexes within 6 areas, including French Valley, Oak Mountain, Wilson Valley, Cactus Valley, and Aguanga. As of March of this year, the Biological Monitoring Program has surveyed for Kino at the Cactus Valley complex. Preliminary survey results indicate detection at this location. The 2022 surveys will continue through the end of the survey season in May. Next slide, please. The third objective is to maintain landscape connectivity around the Lake Matthews, Estelle Mountain, Hartford Springs core area, and between and among the core and satellite occurrence populations in the southeastern portion of the plan area. To date, conserved lands include core areas of Lake Matthews, Oak Mountain, Sage, Skinner Johnson, Tule, Warm Springs Creek, and Wilson Creek. Lastly, within the conservation area, reserve managers will document the distribution of Kino checker spot on an annual basis. The Biological Monitoring Program continues to annually survey and monitor the species throughout the plan area. An annual standalone report provides a great amount of detail on the species and where and how the monitoring is conducted. Although we continue to meet the species objective, there are concerns about the distribution of Kino within the reserve area. Additional funds and increased efforts by the Biological Monitoring Program in recent years has been finding Kino at higher elevations than originally thought. We continue to survey sites that have not been surveyed in past years in hopes of finding more occupation by the species. There is an interest by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to perhaps reintroduce the species to the Lake Matthews area as part of the species recovery efforts. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Even with the butterflies in my stomach, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Love it. All right, thank you so much. Leslie, do we have any questions or comments? I'm shocked that butterflies only live up to 4 to 8 weeks. Not that. All right, well, thank you. Oh, we do have a question. Lisa.
Yes, Natasha. Yes, I did have a question for Leslie. I'd just like to ask if the moisture that we receive or lack of moisture, like when they say we're in a drought condition, does that affect this habitat in any way?
Since this butterfly is very host plant specific. There could be a rainfall factor to its host plant availability. So yes, rainfall and moisture within the area could have an impact on this species.
Great. And then when you showed us, they don't really, the butterflies don't lay eggs, do they? There aren't they cocoons that they, can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, they do.
That cluster?
They do lay clusters of eggs at typically at the base of their host plants. The eggs will hatch into a larval stage, and then just like other butterfly species, they will pupate and encase themselves into a hard protective shell, and then they will metamorphosize. And once they emerge from that hard protective shell, they emerge as a beautiful butterfly.
Wow, I didn't know that they laid eggs, and then that was the process. I always thought it was cocoons and such. So, okay, well, thank you so much for your presentation.
Yeah, and the fact that they had such a great picture of those eggs at the bottom of the plant too, that's incredible. So thank you so much. I don't see any other hands. All right, that will take us to Board of Directors comments. Anything for the group before I turn it over to Aaron for Executive Director comments? No? Okay, before I turn it over to Aaron, I just want to say that what was it last week? The week before, we actually here in Lake Elsinore had the ribbon cutting of the Railroad Canyon Diamond Drive interchange, 15 freeway interchange that finally finished. Thank you. So excited. But what was nice about that was I got to see all our folks in person from our CTC side and actually see that they're real humans and give some of them some hugs. And it was just really wonderful to see everybody in person, and reminded me how we're all going to struggle getting back to in-person stuff and getting around the county very quickly when it's time to get back to meetings because we will be doing that. But wanted to thank everybody. Someone sending something to my air printer. Sorry about that. So I'll turn it over to you, Aaron, for your Executive Director report.
Madam Chair, I'll be brief. Philip, you want to put the photos on the screen, please? So a couple of weeks ago, we had a great day out in the field. There you see Director Bash, Director Males, Director Sobek, and Jonathan Reinig, who carrying the tripod there, who's our lead land manager with the Riverside County Parks and Open Space District. Took us on a tour of a property in Menifee. I don't know if either of any of the directors on the call want to talk about it, but we will be offering another round of tours, maybe not to this property, but to some others. I just want to thank those who took the time to come out and see it. Go ahead, Director Sobek.
Thank you, Aaron. You know what? I just would like to encourage anyone that's on the board to take advantage of this. First of all, I would just want to thank this RCA staff. They took us on a nice tour. It was a beautiful morning on Earth Day, and to see this vista and this land and to hear the information that on the McInney Stimmel property was fascinating. To see the habitat, and I don't remember his name. You had mentioned it. Jonathan did a great job, and I just encourage anyone. We learned a lot, and just encourage anyone on the board to go out and take advantage of this. And thank you, Aaron, for being there on that early morning. It was a little chilly, but it was a beautiful morning. And I just thought, for me, it was just a beautiful way to start my Earth Day. So thank you for making that available.
Thank you, Lisa. Kevin?
Yeah, all I want to say is I hope everybody gets an opportunity to go out and do this. It puts it all into perspective. You realize that these votes that sometimes you feel they're sort of in a closet. In fact, they're kind of in a closet. You realize what you're actually saving, and it's what the work of the RCA. What they do is amazing, and to staff. And nothing wrong with the previous RCA structure, but the new structure is is just taking leaps forward, and I really appreciate all you guys do. And Aaron, you're doing a great job. I had a lot of fun. Aaron does a great job, of course, because he's a Norco High graduate, as I am, and that's exactly why he is so effective. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Way to plug, Kevin. Way to plug. I want to say, well, I'm not a Norco High graduate, but I'm married to a Norco High graduate. Does that work, Kevin? Okay. Okay, so I just want to say thank you. I do owe everybody an apology. At our last meeting, I said, I'll see you there. And then some chair duties called. We had a meeting with Assemblymember Ciarto, and I was unable to attend this tour. So I will be at the next one. And thank you for having this tour available. This was actually feedback from the board that they would like to see this. So highly encourage those to try to make the next one on your calendars. I know we're going to try and get the dates out pretty quick here, so we know your calendars are full. So we'll get that out to you. With that being said, I think that's all we have this afternoon. Our adjournment will be official after I announce that I will see you all on June 6th is the next time we meet. So until then, be well and have a great month of May. Appreciate you all. Have a good afternoon.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.